And we're live. All right,
Awesome.
everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm here with Phil Rodgers from ReOps. ReOps is a maintenance solution for multifamily property maintenance, and I'll let Phil talk a little bit further about that. Lots of years in multifamily industry. What's really compelling is the year over year of outsized growth at every single role he's been in. Tons of fun to talk to. Plenty of good stories. We had some good back and forth prior to the call here today and our first call. Now, remember everybody here listening today, getting to hell yes. The whole point of this podcast is to focus in on the buyer's journey. And one of the things that we're all observed in the way that we buy is that we're not buying anymore. We're not being persuaded anymore. We're buying for fit. We're seeking to solve problems, and we're actively, looking for fit with the people we choose to buy from. And so, getting to hell yes is about understanding who are those people in your prospects, who are those people in your target market that are looking to buy, what's going on in their life that's making them buy, what problems they're trying to solve. Because nobody wakes up looking to buy a new operator. No one looks to buy anything. They don't look up to buy a new software, a new operator, PMS, new whatever. They respond to their current environment. And so that's what this show is focused on. Phil, thank you so much for having you on. We'll kick it off a little bit about yourself. How'd you end up in this role? And then who's your hell yes buyer?
All right, man. Well, thank you again for having me on. This has been fun. You're right. The conversations have been fun, and listening into some of the things that you've been up to has been exciting. And but I'm just excited to be able to come on and share something. So my background has been kind of fun. It's being an Iowa farm boy back in the day, to where I was raised on this farm with cattle and everything else, and working with these farmers at auctions, and then my parents having furniture store and carpet business, and I'm selling at age 13 because, well, that's what you do. When you're in a town of 250 people. Can't say it was the best business decision for my parents, but I was born kind of in sales. That was just kind of who I was. And when I left and graduated, I became a teacher and a coach. And I think that's where you had the whole sales background, and then I get into more of the leadership and understanding, identifying all of the strengths and weaknesses of each individual that you're working with, whether it's in a classroom or whether it's on a field. And I think that's helped me throughout my journey of growing to where I am today. And I've done multiple different industries. I was in the mortgage industry. I was a recruiter for IT, but I started here in multifamily back in 2027 or 2007 with a gentleman that and some of you may already know. His name is Mark Case. He was the chief sales officer of a company called RealPage that I think people are familiar with. And how I ended up being with him is I coached his son Connor in football and baseball for years. And we were on the third floor of the RealPage building when we imploded, and at the end of 2026 or 2006. Mm-hmm. And he asked me to come over. And I had no idea of anything with multifamily. Didn't know anything about technology in multifamily. And so I told him, I said, I got to start on the inside. And so I did. I started inside sales with RealPage. I've been with Yardi. I was with AMSI. Yes, for those of you that know, I think it's still around out there. I'm not sure. And then I got into this, what my wife would call startup sickness. Like,
it's an illness.
It is absolutely, it's true. Yep. So I joined a company called Resman, again, another property management software system. They were about 4,900 units when I arrived there. And I spent 6 months working with their development team, kind of getting us on par with, other software systems. And, after 2.5 years, we were about 165,000 units. And then I decided to go over to another startup company called SitePlan, mobile maintenance solution in the industry, worked with Joseph Westlake and Terry, and we hired Terry Danner as our CEO. But we were 4,200 units. 2 years later, we were 365,000 units. And then I was brought over to a company. Now it's called Inhabit. It was called Property Brands. It's where I oversaw 12 different P&Ls, which I never thought I would ever have to oversee 12 P&Ls. One's hard enough, but 12 was a bit crazy. But I was also part of an M&A team. So every step of my journey, I kept looking at, I know I want to be the CEO of my own company in multifamily, the industry that I love. I knew that from the moment I got into RealPage. I'm like, I want to lead my own. I want to build a culture from the ground floor. I want to stay committed to building for our users, by our users, not by developers who think they know what our users do every day. But there was a journey you have to do. You have to learn so many different pieces throughout that. And so every step that I took, I didn't leave because of the company. I left because it allowed me to learn more. And
Mhm.
I'll say Inhabit basically took me to a whole different level where I'm working 9 M&A deals. Resman was one of those when we acquired them, and Anyone Home. And then I was part of, working with private equity groups of Province and Insight Partners and Goldman Sachs. And so it helped me identify how can I be more successful in the role I am today.
Mhm.
I was blessed in 2022. A good friend of mine, Kevin George, who was former CEO of Info Tycoon, brought it to my attention about ReOps. They're looking for a CEO. I did a lot of soul searching and said, do I want to have this nice cushy job over here where it's paying really nice, or do I just want to put all my hair and turn gray? It's like bald, gray-haired men are sexy, so I figured let's do it.
Yeah.
And so I came over December of 22, and we have been building this technology for the last 2 years. And I've been able to endure all of the pains, as you've seen, of starting technology, but staying true to who we are and identifying the pains, the needs, and solving pains, not building widgets.
How did you find out? Like, so when you were building it, I mean, coming out of incubation there or stealth, like, how did you how did you resist the temptation to start dreaming up problems to solve?
Oh my gosh. Good question. Because that's all you're always looking at how do I solve problems? But you really got to get into the nitty gritty of one, do you understand the business that you're actually working with? So in the multifamily and knowing that I've been on the property management software side for years, I understood the front end leasing to the accounting to the maintenance and everything else. I got into the maintenance side and I started looking at all these inefficiencies. And one of the things that kept hitting me was we know that the rents, starting in that year, rents were starting to stabilize, go down in some
Mhm.
markets, something that we were always counting on for our bottom line, the increase for our asset values. And I'm like, everything has to be expense based. I mean, how are we going to reduce expenses? And what are some of the biggest challenges out there? So I went out and I just started talking. And I
Mhm.
started identifying, hey, this is the idea. This is what we're looking at. Is it a pain? Is it truly something that is going to solve a problem? And if the answer is no, if it's just another widget, I mean, I'm not saying anything negative out here, but I mean, I don't know how many more payments or screenings or something else that can
Yeah.
happen. They're all similar and there's a little differences, but you've got to build something that's going to change the industry. And the only way you do that is you go out and listen. You just talk. And that's why I made that decision and going, you know what, this is going to be a big lift.
So
But
when you
when
were up there talking, like in the context of like customer interviews and just like customer research and interviews and all that, like one thing that I have made the mistake doing, and I do also believe this falls to a lot of founders and entrepreneurs, is that I end up like leading the witness,
Mhm.
right? I end up offering up questions that lead to my answer versus asking them about what they're trying to solve, right? And
Mhm.
so, a great example would be, like in terms of what we solve, like, "Oh, have you tried video before to solve things, right? I'm already leading them to what I want the answer to be versus what have you tried?
Mhm.
And there's a subtle difference of two questions, but I want to be able to say, like, what have you tried? And then what else? And then what else? And then what else? Because I really want to have them articulate what their real objective is. Because like I find
Yep.
specifically in like even like like maintenance software in itself is a necessary evil, but to what end? What are they trying to
Mhm.
solve? Right. And like, okay, better, faster, cheaper. That sounds awesome. But better, faster, cheaper doesn't always rise to the top of the priority list,
That's right.
right? So
Mhm.
what is your priority list? And so we talk about hell yes. So when you guys are building the product and instantly, actually, let's just pause for a second. What is ReOps? What's the problem you solve?
Yeah, that's the great question. So when we and I hate to use some of these terms, but the easiest terms that you're going to find out there. So when people are looking at so first of all, standardizing the products that are being purchased, the services that are being purchased at the properties, controlling it from corporate level down. So one of the biggest challenges that we see out there is lack of standardization that's coming from corporate down to the properties. You go to these assets and you go to one unit to another unit. There's different dishwashers, there's different faucets, there's different whatever. There's no standardization. After you do a renovation or a new build, which you have a kit, that standardization goes away quick. And it's because of the inefficiencies that are out there in terms of finding the product. Supply and demand is real. We know that back in 20, 21, 22 even. And technology's been out there. There's marketplaces that have been out there, whether it's a punch out catalog or whether it's a managed catalog, but it's not efficient for them to find the products that they're looking for quickly, easily. And so what happens is the maintenance teams, they leave property, they go down to Home Depot, they go to Lowe's, they pick up something similar because, well, a resident needs something fixed. And so when I asked the problem, early on, I'm like, why is there a lack of standardization? And it's because it's not an easy way for these maintenance professionals to find the product that they need now, not weeks from need now. And we've made it very difficult in our space. And so 7 to 12 hours every week is what we're finding that maintenance professionals are spending being admins, not taking care of residents. And so we're solving the problem by standardizing it, cross-referencing all the SKUs. It's one ID. These products, they're the exact same products. It's the same ceiling fan from Hampton Bay. It's just different SKU numbers. So we brought it into one. We don't need to shop. Take the shopping out, you're buying, and corporate is controlling the what is being purchased, but also the whom it's being purchased from, which is another topic.
Yep.
I do want to say something when you asked earlier about leading them to the questions and to what you want to answer. Sometimes, and you're correct. Sometimes we try to lead them to what we want them to say to us or what we want to hear. But sometimes they don't understand the pain they're dealing with because it's normal. It's the same thing they're doing every single day. So they didn't know that there was a better way to do it, to solve that problem. And then once you engage with them that there's a better way, their mind starts going. And then that's when things start building. And then you get to a hell yes.
It's a great point. And like the maintenance tech, like what happens minute by minute, day by day, doing the right thing minute by minute, day by day may cause the wrong thing month by month, quarter by quarter. So if you go out there and you're trying to solve the resident's request for a leaky faucet, you go out there and the whole place is kitted out with Delta and you go buy Peerless because it's cheaper and you think you're doing the right thing, right? Well, that's going to create a problem down the road because all of a sudden you've got a 100-unit place. It's got Peerless, Standard. It's got whatever, name it, keep going, right? Moen, it's got everything.
Faucets, Moen faucets. They got
now when you go rent a unit out, like what you're showing and what you're getting are two different things. And it was all at the discretion of the person who's trying to solve the problem at the time. So it's like this big ball of duct tape, right? At a roll-up level. And so the problem isn't, or I'll ask the question better. Is the problem that it's hard to buy stuff, or is a problem that when people buy all sorts of stuff, the asset's hard to manage?
Yeah, so it was interesting when I was doing my due diligence on this to see, hey, do I really want to come in here? Do I want to build out this technology? I went to a property down in Phoenix, Arizona, won't use the name, and I went to one unit and there was a gooseneck Pfister faucet in the kitchen sink. There was a different shower head in the bedroom one or bathroom one. I went to the very next unit and there was a standard Moen faucet, same color.
Yeah.
Completely different look. There was different shower heads. And I said, was that a premium unit? And is this a classic unit? And the property manager looked at me and goes, what do you mean? I said, well, that had gooseneck Pfister faucet, so on and so forth. This has this. Was that a premium? He goes, no, it's the same unit type. And I go, hold on. I said, then why don't we have the same products? And he goes, welcome to multifamily. And I said, horrible answer. And when I started diving into it, if I'm out in there's marketplaces out there, if I'm out there going to, I go to HD or I go to Lowe's Pro or whatever it might be, and I'm shopping for these products and they don't have it, well, then I have to go to another punch out or another punch out. Or if I'm calling my rep and my rep is doing what they're hired to do by going out and having meetings and not taking phone calls and orders, or they're at the golf course, not that they would ever do that, but I can't get a hold of them. What do I do next? And most of them are saying, listen, I'm not going to pick up the phone again. I'm just getting in the truck and I'm going down to Home Depot and Lowe's, picking up something similar because my resident needs it and I need to focus on resident satisfaction. But
that's how I get paid. I get paid on closed work orders.
That's right. I just need it done.
Yeah.
And now, but I even asked the property manager, I said, hold on a second. You sold me this unit. When you showed me the unit had this gooseneck Pfister faucet, had this shower head, but the unit that I actually am paying for has this. You're already starting off on a negative way, negative resident satisfaction.
Day zero.
Yeah. And, when we're looking at technology and, we have marketing, maintenance is marketing. Let's just get that out there. That's one of the things that I've been working on. Maintenance is marketing. It's the most powerful marketing you could possibly do. And if we give greater technology to them where we're reducing the administrative time that they have, because back in the day, and you know this, it was one maintenance professional for every 100 units. Now it's one for every 170. But we're asking them to do the same thing: work orders, inspections, preventative maintenance, heaven forbid, turns, and oh yes, take care of the residents.
Yeah.
And then we see this resident satisfaction dropping. We see the turns go up. And if we focused on providing better technology on the back end, giving our maintenance teams more time to focus on the residents, if we saved one resident,
yeah,
how much does that affect the bottom line? I'm not having to turn that unit. I'm not having to go out and source it through marketing. So those are the things that we look at is and my wife has asked me, what's your obsession with marketing? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, you're one of the worst handymen I've ever met in my entire life. I said, that's why we pay people to do that. There's handymen.
Oh, come on. You're a farm boy, man. Like, I mean, I live in the plains. Like, you got a farm guy with a weld kit and duct tape. You can get yourself out of most jams.
You put me on my ranch and you put me in front of my tractor. Everything's good. You come in here and you want me to do something in the house, I got Co's handyman coming over.
Fair enough. So when you're looking at your market and what you guys have built for, and incidentally, I mean, like, you guys you're new to the market. You're out there. People are looking to solve the problems. When someone has, like, again, on their end, on your buyer's end, they're looking to what are they Googling? And what are they Googling before they think of you? Like, well, how are they articulating the problem, and how do they type that into Google?
That's one thing that I keep asking all the time is, am I looking at spend management? Right? Is that what I'm really looking at? Maintaining and controlling my spend from products and services? Is that what you would be Googling out there? Would you be Googling marketplaces and multifamily or real estate? Because, it is real estate operations, a marketplace that you're familiar with going out and buying products. Are you looking at, hey, I'm looking for a group purchasing system? All of these things are things that you could potentially say somebody is Googling for. Really, it's standardization of your spend down to products and services. So that's really if I was to go in and say, what am I going to Google out there? I would try to find something that is standardizing my products, my services, and allowing me to centralize maybe my maintenance operations, because we talk about centralization a lot. It's kind of like AI. What does it really mean?
Yeah.
I think it means something different to everybody. And it's defining what that is. But if I'm going to centralize, the only way you centralize is standardizing. And so that's what I would say. If I was to try to Google, I want to standardize my products and services and control my spend. So in that, what's going to pop up?
Right. And then what would they get today? Like, what did they get before you guys launched? What were the choices they'd have?
So in today's world, there's old school. They're making calls to their service providers. right? It's
Mhm.
all manual. Or they go online to a marketplace that has a punch out experience, which basically takes them to an HD
Or like a
website.
Ferguson kind of thing.
Yeah, it goes to Ferguson, it goes to
More
HD,
pro. Yeah.
Chadwell, so but it pops out to their website. So
Yeah.
it's their own website. They have thousands of products that they can shop. And if they can't find what they're looking for, then they have to go do it all over again. And if you're really looking at sourcing this and procuring it, right, because it's a procurement solution, really, at the end of
Yeah.
the day, I have to go to multiple different pages just to see who has availability and who has best price. Or I go into another marketplace that has a managed catalog. That data could be up to 3 months old.
Sure.
They don't even know if it's available until after they order the products, and then they say, "Oh, it's on back order." And
Right.
so then they cancel it, they go back. That's what's out there today. There is nothing that is efficient that is bringing it in, and then none of those are mobile based.
Yeah.
If I'm walking a property, I'm walking a unit, why do I have to make notes on a piece of paper or make notes in my phone and go write it on a whiteboard for somebody else to go order? Why can't I just say, I need 2 of these, I need 1 of those?
How much spend is rogue spend? So we used to call this rogue spend, right? I don't know if multifamily's got a word for it.
They
We saw
still,
Maverick spending or rogue spending, and it wasn't cool like Maverick. The movie is like it was
yeah.
bad. So rogue spend, Maverick spend versus managed spend. So how much out there is rogue spend right now? Like the way you explained it to me, and then like what we've heard is that it's really they literally like they plan for the Home Depot trip in their day. And so like they're just walking down the aisles and they're grabbing something off the shelf and they're walking out the contractor entrance and that's it. Like they're not actually considering the overall managed portfolio. They've got no visibility into what vendors are buying from. They have no visibility to what they're stock. They have no visibility to what's breaking down.
That's
That's
right.
managed spend. That's sophisticated spend. And the people I've worked with in the past, there was people who were they were exclusively accountable for category management, right?
That's right.
But I don't in multifamily, the person who's at the till is the tech who's just trying to get their job done. So what's that spend ratio? Or what,
You know, great question, because it's something we talk about all the time. Like when, one of the questions that gets brought up to me is what's your objections that you get, right?
Mhm.
And one of the big things that pops up is, are you integrated? Are you integrated? Are you integrated? I mean, anybody in technology, they'll know right away. They're like, oh, well, do you integrate with? Do you integrate with?
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of it's because you're looking at, do you have a purchase order? Like you were saying, controlling the spend. And the reason they use purchase orders, and it seems to be going away more and more, is they want to be able to have eyes on it first
Mhm.
before somebody buys it. Okay, well, that's a good point. And then, of course, the budgetary aspect of it. But
Mhm.
when I get into diving into it with the conversation, they start talking about offline orders, offline orders, offline orders, which is
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Text POs, rogue spend.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
offline orders. And I go, what do you mean? Well, they went down and they bought something and then they go in and they create a PO. And I said, after the fact. So they're not asking for permission. They're asking, you're asking for forgiveness.
Yeah, they're following the process. Yeah.
Right. They're not doing it. So when I start digging into how much really is there, and of course, oh, not too much. And then when they dig into it, it's a significant amount of what they're doing. And every time that maintenance professional leaves property, and this is what we try to educate, is when they leave property, there's so many negative things that take place.
Mhm.
One, your property's now at a financial risk. If they get in an accident,
Yep.
guess what? You're paying for it. They're on job, right? And it happens. And people, they're like, yep, I'm dealing with a $10,000 insurance claim right now because of it. Okay. That was an expensive toilet flapper, by the way. And then the other is, it's not a 15-minute trip. They
Yeah.
got a lot of shiny things in there that they're looking for what I'm going to buy for this next weekend. I'm an hour. So that's an hour taken away from work orders, inspections, preventative maintenance, and again, resident satisfaction. All of that is negative. Your spend is higher because now you're paying a higher rate. You're not finding the best rates with your current suppliers that you have negotiated discounts with and rebates.
Mhm.
So it's a bad situation with the rogue spend, but it's there because they couldn't find the products that they needed in the time period that they needed it. They didn't need it in 2 weeks. They needed it tomorrow because they
Yeah.
have a work order that needs to be completed. So when we talk availability, it's same day, next day delivery. But now you have 3, 4, 5 different suppliers you potentially could be looking at and letting technology doing it all instead of me doing all this manual. Maintenance professionals don't want to log into a computer. That was not part of their job description.
No, that's not why they were hired. So a couple questions on that. So like on rogue spend, like this is kind of, talking about, so part of the things about hell yes is the time wall, right? In rogue spend, one of the things that we saw in major industry was a significant amount of fraud, like a big part of fraud, a big chunk of fraud, because no one's reviewing the level 4 line items on a credit card. They're looking at the receipt, and then it gets missed. Even if they submit a picture of the receipt, sometimes you just get the credit card chit. You actually don't get the receipt, the itemized receipt. And the policies aren't in place. This is a job with a 50% turnover. So, people can bounce around. Is that ever something that comes up? Like, do you ever ask that question around fraud and rogue spend?
Yeah, I mean, we do. I don't know that it gets asked as much as it should based on what you're just bringing up in here, because it is a common thing. So when we hear about it,
it's super easy to defraud in rogue spend. It's so
Agreed. There is no control. You're not asking for permission. You're asking for forgiveness, and they're not going to go through the details. You're going to look at what the overall spend was based on what you're going to enter in as your PO and the amount based on the PO code.
Yep.
It doesn't go, if you go into your back end system and property management software, it's not going down to the itemization of that. It's going down to the amount of money that you spent based on that GO code.
It's commitment. It's the commitment level.
That's right.
Yeah. What's the cost commit? And then the next one was around like when you're talking about what you guys solve. So, all these, people like often like you're bringing in controls, order, standardization, that change is going to be felt by the maintenance tech. Now we hear this objection often, right? And I think I even talked to you about something we're thinking about to do differently to get around to respond to the objection. But we hear the objection that my maintenance techs can't absorb this change. So we're not, so we're out, or, maybe later or whatever, right? How are you managing change or messaging change at the tech level?
Good question. So back when I was at Site Plan, right, which was mobile maintenance, and it was really Site Plan, I'd say it was we paved the way. Because back then there was no bring your own device policy. People are still trying to figure out. Maintenance was like, I'm not going to use my personal phone for this.
Yeah, for carbon copies and stuff.
Right. They're like, nope, not going to do that. You're going to pay for a device. And so then they started bringing devices, and they're like, I don't want to carry 2 devices. I already got this. And so it evolved to, I'm just going to use my phone. Why? I mean, they're using it today. So I think we're in a different position today than we were back in 2015, 16, 17. We've paved the way with technology from maintenance. What we talk about is we're not changing your processes, right? And that's one of the biggest things for any technology that comes out. And as property management professionals, they look at, how do you disrupt my properties less, right? And so I don't want disruption. And so for us, we're like, are you ordering products today? Yes. Are you ordering services today? Are you ordering landscaping, plumbing, electricians, painters? Yes. Okay. You're doing the exact, so we're not going to change what you're doing. You're going to continue to order products and services. We're just going to make it a heck of a lot easier for you to do that and corporate control it. So I don't have to shop. I don't have to search from all these things. I'm just saying, I need 1 of these. I need 2 of these. I need 3 of these. Take the thinking out. So we're not changing their processes. And anybody that brings technology to the forefront needs to understand, the more times that we change the property's experiences and changing how they do their business, the more pushback we're going to get. Right?
Do you find like in terms of the standardization and so then kind of like reverting back to like the current state of how things are done, many places have a little shop or an inventory cubby inside the building. So they're trying, and maybe that's the other thing you're trying to standardize by having an inventory cubby in your basement or your parking garage or wherever they keep them. But like, what's going wrong? Why isn't that working?
Well, let's go back to the lack of standardization. So if you go into, just think, we have one property that had 8 different dishwashers on one property. different manufacturers, different dishwashers. And I said, how do you maintain inventory?
Yeah.
Like, we don't, right? I said, so any parts of those, you're not maintaining inventory, which is one of your biggest challenges. So when you get it, like in our system, you have an approved product catalog for that product.
Mhm.
You can't buy anything else, right? So
Right.
it is being controlled from corporate or admin down to the property, and
Mhm.
we are going to maintain standardization. So now you can have what we would consider an inventory in your maintenance shops. Most maintenance shops, not all of them, but most maintenance shops look worse than my garage, and that's
Oh
something.
yeah, they're bad. And my garage is bad too.
That says a lot. But and we all laugh, even the sites laugh. But it is what it is. Like, they don't.
Well, it's more like Stanford and Son than we'd like to admit.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It is. Good job.
Well,
Yeah, but for us, it's how do you maintain it? How do you maintain an inventory? Give them standardization, get them into where they can have a maintenance shop. And if you go into maintenance shops today, you see a corner over here of stuff that's in boxes.
yeah.
Why? Because they ordered the wrong products or got wrong products delivered. And by the way, that's not good for anybody. The maintenance, the sites didn't get what they wanted. The suppliers are losing margin every time they do that. And you just see a bunch of stuff that just continues to accumulate. They're not managing how many they have in the shop. But if you don't get to standardization, you're not having inventory on a regular basis.
One of my previous customers, prior to ours, they had, like, for shop supplies, they had vending machines. The vending machines with a swipe card. And so for basic shop supplies, you had to swipe it in, vending machine, like just like when you get your chips and Baby Ruth, whatever, would coil it out and it dropped down all inventory. And then now where they're going is they're actually getting into digital print. So you actually just type in the code for the schematic, it'll digitally print whatever you need, and then you pull it from there. That's not fully adopted yet, but that's kind of where the innovation team's thinking. These places are remote. They're, hard. I mean, it doesn't, there's a lot of metaphors, right? Like they're remote, they're hard to staff, a lot of turnover in staff, a lot of contractors, a lot of third party. Sounds familiar?
Yeah.
Right. A lot of spend, and parts are expensive. Right. And so like that's one of the ways they were trying to standardize is the vending machines.
That's where, when you get into inventory, people ask me, do you have inventory management? Right? Great term. Love it. Wish it was a magic wand that could do that. But at the end of the day, when you're relying on a human to go in and they take 4 of them out of this box and they say, oh, I need to make sure that I put in here that I took 4 out. I'm sorry, they don't have time. They're just taking 4. They're going to go fix a problem. Next thing you know. So until we can fix that problem, then it's not true inventory management. There are ways to make it better, but it's not a true humanless inventory management at this point.
Yeah. And there is a law of decreasing returns. Like if you're tracking bolts and nuts and shop supplies, like that can be pretty expensive. It's funny, like sellers will often try and sell the wrong thing, right? We're solving the wrong problem. Like the cost management around shop supplies I rarely heard this as a problem. It's the availability of shop supplies.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that all of those valves, nuts, whatever, flanges, they're all there. And they want to make sure they're supplying them with the standard parts. So people aren't running into the HD and picking up the parts, right? If you're looking at like stuff like gaskets and whatever, it's not the cost. It's the fact you don't want the tech. If it costs you an hour to go buy a $1 ring, O-ring, that O-ring is $150.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all the risks you just talked about, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And a couple things I wanted to add in here. So one of the challenges when I go back to the whole rents aren't increasing, rents are stabilizing, rents are decreasing. So you're looking at expenses. So we did some of this analysis and we said, okay, let's look at what you're currently spending. So over the last 12 months, what did you spend with your current suppliers, products? And let's look at if you went forward in the next 12 months with increases, because the products are increasing. And there's, anywhere like a 3% increase is what we're averaging on supplies, 5% on services. So there's an increase on those products. If you kept buying from the same company that you're buying from today, because it's quote the easy button, right? I'm just gonna order it from one. I got great rebates. Okay, well, what's the start rate that we're coming from? right? You might have a great discount, but what's the actual start rate? We did an analysis with a company, and there was three properties, 294 items were the
Yeah.
exact items across their three preferred suppliers.
Yeah.
If they would have used our system, which it wasn't ready, but if we would have been around for the last 12 months, we would have saved them $47,000. Now, with
Yeah.
cap rates being the way they are, it doesn't take a rock scientist to figure out how much we increase the asset values.
Massive
And
value. Yep.
and people are like, well, I just feel stupid. I go, don't feel stupid. This is the way that we've been doing business. We don't have time to source all of these products, availability, pricing. Let technology do it for you. That was one of the big things. And then educating people on, listen, I know you've been ordering from these, but did you know Ferguson has the largest MRO catalog in the entire country? By the way, they're
Mhm.
$29 billion. And yes, they've been known for this, but by the way, they're really good at some things. You might want to take a look at them. And they're like, I didn't know. We don't know
Yep.
what we don't know. And that's where we kind of came in and we said, if we're not affecting the bottom line in a positive way, we shouldn't be building technology.
Do you have a different pitch, or like when you're looking at owners or do you sell to owners or operators? Like in your prospect list when you're going out there's obviously owner operators, which everyone loves to sell to the best, but like there's operators control the majority of the spend out there, and the
Right.
owners are the ones that pay for most things, right? So when you look at your target market, who would you prefer to sell to between an owner and an operator? Like how does that work?
That's a really good question, because that's the one where I think people are like, oh, do you sell to your owners because the owners are going to see the value of this? But so do
Mhm.
the management teams. I mean, the
The PMC.
management companies are out there. Now, the ugly word that gets thrown out there sometimes is rebates, right? Oh, I get a rebate, I get a rebate, I get a rebate, I get a rebate. Okay, well, that's great. You get a rebate. And then you have to maintain a certain amount of spend with that company. Well, from an owner's perspective, they're going to look at, hey, I just want better, my bottom line needs to be the best, right? So go find me the
Mhm.
best price, make sure there's standardization. I don't care about rebates. But then there's the management company that utilizes that. There's a happy medium in between there. You can still get better pricing. You can still affect the bottom line using our technology by getting the same products, better price, but using it over your suppliers,
Yeah.
and you maintain the spend and still get your rebates. But the one thing that I've always asked people, I'm like, okay, so it's October. Where am I? Like, you show me a report right now, pull it to let me know how much spend I've actually spent with this supplier. Where am I?
Yep.
I'm supposed to hit 1.7 million. Where are you right now? They have no clue. So they rely on the supplier to tell them where they are at that time. Well, if I had it right in front of me, I had a dashboard that says, here's where I am, and I'm going to miss that threshold if I don't change my preferences. And in the background from corporate, I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to have this supplier as my preferred. We've got to maintain and hit that number. We don't know what we don't know. We just continue to do the same thing.
One thing that, again, just going back to my days in the industry, like one of the big things that we tracked through procurement and through catalogs was warranty. And so one of the things that was a big expense was, and it's a total brown dollar, like no one knew the dollar at all.
Mm-hmm.
How many things I was buying for things that are already in warranty. So you buy that faucet, maybe you blow it up, maybe you forget to install it, maybe it's just an open package, and then you go to you can't, you're just too busy no one returns anything. So that's just spend, and then you go buy it again, or it's installed and then it fails. You got 9 different dishwashers. That means you got 9 different warranty programs. Like all of that's real money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't know if it's nothing. No one's ever talked to me about that. We've seen it. I've seen it in major industry where we've saved millions and millions of dollars. When you roll it all up and you start doing warranty management, you see it in major equipment like your HVAC, your compressors, your boilers. They all got warranty programs on it. Curious if you get down to, have you heard that at all? Something people are trying to solve, like, or do they even know? Do they even know that's something that they're leaking on?
Yeah. So assets is basically what we talk about, asset tracking and everything
Mhm.
else, which is getting into warranties. So in multifamily, the property management software systems out there, even back when we were doing with Resman and some of these others, there's an aspect of asset tracking, but it's all manual. right? So you have to actually physically go in and type in serial numbers and warranty information. And guess what? Nobody has time to do any of that. Then there was, even when we were site plan, we were trying to tackle assets. And I think it's a huge way. Right now, we should be focusing on how do we maintain that? Because if I have a warranty on a product, instead of my team going out and fixing that, or hiring a service provider to come in and fix that, that manufacturer should be coming in and they should be fixing it, not costing me anything. And that's those, but we just react. We react. And so that is something that, we looked at, of how do we do that, and getting into some of the technology that's out there that even is going to look at the risk factors of, say, your appliances that are out there. I'm buying this appliance that, maybe the risk factor is 4.2 out of 5, which is not good. And maybe the life expectancy is, 3.6 years, but for $40 more, I could get this product that is, a 2.7 risk factor with a 5.6 year life expectancy. And for long-term holders, that's massive. So looking at solving that type of technology down the road, it's not out there yet, is something that we need to do, because it's huge.
Well, especially when you get into you're getting the vendor management pieces, right? If you're only allowed to buy GE fridges, you can have an extended warranty. You can negotiate extended warranties with GE, so that commitment level of spend. Right. Now, maybe your traditional warranty might be, manufacturer warranty might be a year. But if you got 300 units and you're committing to just buy GE units for all 4 appliances, now you could be able to double that, triple that. Now you're actually cutting that tech expense down to zero. So like where that comes into our business, like, people, I often hear the objection, well, I've got to have somebody on site all the time to respond to all these issues and fix all these, I got to have somebody there anyways. Right. Like, well, why do you have to have someone there? Well, what if something goes wrong? Well, how old are the unit? And then you get into this question that should they even be solving that problem? Should they even spend that money anyways? And so there's just the one thing I have observed is that the data is so loose at the building level that it's very difficult to manage, and the accountability for that quality of data, like it's infrequent that people are making bad decisions based on the data that's there, because they're just not making those decisions. Right. They're not scrutinizing the expense. They're not scrutinizing OpEx. They're not pressured to do better with less. And that's from a culture of like 15 years of being able to raise rents, or 10 years of being able to raise rents, right? The resident just absorbs it, or the owner pays for it. So you got zero interest money, and you've got rents you can just raise all the time. It creates a habit of just being sloppy. That's correct. It's definitely pinching some things, which is good. And when we looked at this, we're like, okay, what are the biggest factors right now that I would say is signaling that we are we're building the right technology, that there's a significant need in here? Is, one, the maintenance professionals are reducing at a fast pace. So it's not keeping up with the supply that's being put out there. The demand for those maintenance professionals continue to dwindle. The new generation, they're not wanting to learn trades. And what I heard was about 40% of all maintenance supervisors in the next 7 years will be retiring. That's scary, right? Which is why services is becoming such a prominent need out there, is because I would rather have a service provider go and do plumbing, electric, and those things, and let my maintenance team focus on my residents, right? Which is a big thing. And this is why we had some partnerships. Supply and demand is a real issue, right? We've seen it, and it still continues. There are suppliers that it's 2 weeks before they even get that product delivered. Right? We need to have technology that's going to allow us to get things quickly, same day, next day, but go wide. Labor's increasing at 5%, materials at 3%. So it continues to increase. Our rents aren't increasing, right? So we're going to have to figure that out. And so that's where we look at, in terms of our current buyers out there and the journeys, and understanding why this is as important as it is because of those items right there that are negatively impacting, and how do we change that? So, so those things you're talking about, like, so which one is like time sensitive? Like, we all know, like, a buyer is motivated. Sorry, hell yes, buyer has a time motivation to them, right? They got a time wall. They got to do something by a certain moment, which is why it's often easier to sell into sales, like revenue buyers, because they've got a quarter to hit, and there's always a quarter. But on cost side, we have a challenge, because there often isn't a quarter to hit. There's an event that occurs, or there's a catastrophe, or there's just someone goes missing, or something bad happens. like what time wall are you looking for, or like what may have occurred to one of your prospects that would say, I need to change this today?
Well, so I would say their the increase of their asset values are not going like they were in the past because of
Mhm.
the changes in the market, right?
Sure.
So if I don't do something now and I continue to go down the same path, I'm going to expect the same results. We need to, and a lot of from a fee manager's perspective, this is where it really gets exciting for them. They want to
Mhm.
grow their portfolio, but they need something that they can go to an owner and say, I can show you a return on your investment right away from day one because we're using this technology, right? Use that to their advantage. And
Yep.
yes, it's going to be a norm, but today so we have a launch pad program right now. So we're launching the product. We just did early last year. We have a launch pad program that is designed for companies that want to build this technology, understand the pain. But again, going back to the for the user, by the user, I'm not going to develop something. I'm not going to build analytics that we think are going to be the right things. We need to hear it
Right.
from the people that are going to do it. And so we're allowing only 30 companies to come into this launchpad program that wants to build technology, wants to solve the problem. And by the way, there's no cost to this, right? So for them, it's no cost. We're going to save money from day one out of that. And how is that? The faster we get into this year, and we can start saving from their spend. How is that going to positively impact going into 2026 into their budget year? What is that going to look like? And especially for
Mhm.
short-term holds, how fast can I flip that around because I'm increasing my asset value with cap rates being at X? So,
So is the time wall kind of like the refinancing window, or is it just like I share the same story, right? I share the same story with respect to operators. Like, you can drive a higher NOI. You can go to the next customer, the next client, and say, "Hey, we increased the asset
mhm,
value of this particular asset because we reduced we made it more reliable, more predictable, and reduced the increase in NOI, reduced the OpEx." And that just like divided by 0.7 or whatever the number is that you're using for your cap, then
right.
all of a sudden you're 0.07, then all of a sudden you're at a much higher number. And then if you're going for banking, if you want to go for refi, that's awesome. It's like money on the floor. Now, those don't happen every day. And so, one thing that we're looking for, and we're still trying to discover this, is what is going to push them to make a decision. So, like, as an example, our business, when we find people that are at like prospects that are sitting around like let's say they're at 20,000 units, and they're going to grow, they're going to grow a little bit this year. Maybe they go to 22,000 units.
Hmm.
They, or maybe 24 or five, they're feeling like a kind of like an incremental time wall, right? When
Yep.
I talk to prospects that are like at 1,000 units or 2,000 units, and they want to go to 4,000 units this year, that is a self-imposed time wall. And we're finding a lot more success with with a growth inspired time wall that exists. So for everyone listening, time wall meaning that they've got to do something by a certain time, and that makes people change.
Hmm.
So a great example is I've got to lose 30 pounds by the high school reunion or whatever, fit in the wedding dress. And those kind of examples are fixed. And so like one thing that we're finding is that if I can go find, in our early qualify questions is like, what's your growth plans, right? Because if you're going from like 100,000 to 110,000, you probably are going to be able to manage that with the people you have. It might be painful, it might not be great, but you're not going to put your name out there to change that. And so that's what we're finding. What are you seeing? Because like there's got to be a critical mass of activity to make it worth it, and at the same time, there's got to be a reason that why I'm committing. There's going to be a timeline for me to commit to change. What do you see out there?
Yeah. And I think it depends on what it is. So in technology, if it's a new platform, like for us, it's fairly new platform, it's new technology to the industry. Yes, there's similarities out there that could push that, and that could be from a refinance or knowing that, hey, we're going to go into, we're looking to sell this asset in the next 12, 16
Mhm.
months. The faster I go ahead and start reducing my expenses and increasing that bottom line, of course, I'm going to be able to go after more. But from a refinance perspective, if I'm doing exact same thing, if I can go ahead and increase my bottom line over the next and show consistently that, hey, I'm growing this. By the way, I can go ask for a higher loan amount, get my LTV down,
Yeah.
right, get a better interest rates. Those are things that, people need to be looking into. And then honestly, do I have a contract that's coming up, with the current technology that I'm in today? Like with property management software, we knew that there was a significant pain. They had to make a decision by a certain date because their contract or the contract with their current provider is going to renew. Right? So there was a date that has to be done, and that's your wall. And I think in each technology that we look at, we've got to identify what that is first, what's pushing them to make that, and how do we help educate them on what's important to them, if there is a wall somewhere, and what can we positively impact by the time that is done. Refinance, sell, you name it.
Make it easy. Right.
That's right.
As we're kind of wrapping things up here, so when you take a look at your years of experience, what you're doing right now with ReOps, what is the one piece of advice? You talked to maybe a new AE comes into your company, or at least someone's looking for mentorship. It's another startup founder. What's the piece of advice you give them to help them find and discover buyers that are in hell yes state,
Yeah, I think it gets into you got to start building the questions of making sure you get yeses to get to hell yes, right? There's always this build up to yes, this is a problem. Yes, this is a problem. Then hell yes, we need to do this.
Yeah.
And discovery, but understanding. And there was a gentleman that I worked for back in the day, and he was tough. He was tough, but he kept coming in, and he would always say, "What's their desired business outcome, Phil?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "What's the DBO?" Like, what the heck is a DBO?
Love it.
Right? But each person within the organization has a purpose. Like, they want something out. If I'm going to make change, what's going to affect my life?
Personal goals.
Personal goals. That's right. So identifying who are the people that this is going to affect, bring them into it, and truly listen to the pains that they have. And when you're showing your technology and it solves a pain, and they have a desired business outcome, CFO, operations, a property manager, regional manager, head of maintenance, everybody has something different. And you need to identify what's important to them. And talk to them directly about that and make it clear, not just come in. I used to say it, the show up and throw up mentality, right? Yeah. Look how wonderful my technology is. And right. And by the way, we don't use POs. So thanks for wasting 15 minutes of my time showing me POs. But truly finding that, doing the discovery, getting the yeses to the point where it does become a hell yes. I have to have this.
Gotcha. So do the discovery, listen, right? Make sure you build up. So what I've heard from you is it's not just the discovery piece. It's get out there and listen with intent to listen versus listen with intent to talk. That's so hard to say to founders.
I know. Yeah, it is. It really is.
We really want to talk about what we do. Listen with intent. I find to follow your program, I find writing out the questions keeps me on track. Otherwise, I won't have a conversation, right? So structuring those questions in terms of what I want to talk about to make sure that I get to where I want to get to. So we're helping each other out because I'm respectful of both the prospect's time and my time.
That's right.
And then, and ultimately, so what else you're saying is that, so listen, discover with intent, but to your point, what's their DBO, right? What's their business outcome? And that's different for the role. So know who you're selling to.
That's right. And not everybody is it, and that's okay. I want our industry to change this is partnerships in everything that we do, right? I don't use customer, vendor. I can't, that's pointing fingers at each other. And I've said this for years and years and years. You are my partner. And we're going to make mistakes, and so are you. And that's okay. And in our industry, and the most powerful thing about our industry is the relationships that we have. I've never had an industry that has the relationships that we have. And there are people that I have worked with that are personal friends of mine. And I never go to the intention that I'm selling them anything. I want them to help me understand and help me build something. But there's times where it's like, when I was selling Resman, And I had a good friend of mine, Mark Julien, I'll say it right now. He told me, he's like, hey, we're using one side. No, I have no interest. I'm like, I'm not here. We're just going to have talk about family and everything else. And I said, don't worry about it. I'm not here for that. 2 years later, he calls me up and he says, hey, I think we need to talk about resume. And I said, okay, fine, whatever. I'm not selling. Right? I'm educating, but I want you to keep it, right? And we're just partners in this whole thing. And when we become partners, it is different. It is different, and it's wonderful, and it's long-term, instead of somebody shoving something down their throat saying, this is the most wonderful thing you could possibly imagine. This is what you need to buy. They shouldn't want to buy. They should want to partner and make changes and make a positive impact.
Perfect. That's getting hell yes. They're looking to solve a problem, and they're fitting with the person at the right time.
Yep.
Couple more questions. So how can we get a hold of you? What's the best way? If they want to join the program, they're curious to learn more.
Yeah, a couple of ways. One, they can always go email me at Phil, PHIL, at re-ops.co, not .com.
Okay. And is that easy to find on LinkedIn? Easy to find on LinkedIn?
Yep, and it's Rodgers, Rodgers. It is not Fred Rodgers. Even though as a teacher I was called Mr. Rodgers many times, and that was back in the cool days. So go on my LinkedIn. It is under Phil. It's Rodgers, Rodgers, or you guys can call me directly. It's my cell number is 214-773-1222.
There we go.
8675-309 was taken, so I went with it.
Yeah. Jenny. You're going to NMHC? You head there?
The annual meeting, yes, sir.
All right. So if anyone's interested in grabbing a beer or a coffee while you're there, we're all going. I'll be there as well. So we should definitely grab a beer over there.
Let's do it.
It'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's my first one.
Hey, my friend. First of all, thank you for inviting me. This has been a lot of fun. We could do this for hours.
Yeah, completely. And just the information you gave me, I'm happy to, for everyone that's listening, like it's one of the things that we love to share is just like, like sellers are selling with conviction and authenticity and really trying to solve those problems. And I hope that it's helpful for buyers to understand how people are approaching sales these days. That we're not out there just trying to huck in our wares. We're really trying to find problems.
Amen.
So I invite everybody else to listen to this on the podcast. So this will come out in a podcast in about a week or so. Follow us on Apple or Spotify. I appreciate everyone for listening. Phil, super good intel today. I think that it's a valuable conversation for everyone to understand, particularly given your role of working in kind of like institutional and larger, bigger, smaller, tech, non-tech, and then now in your own role as a CEO for a startup and in this space, looking to solve this problem. I think it needs to be solved. It has to be solved, and really appreciate your insights and getting on here and sharing. So this is awesome, man. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone for listening. Take care.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Have a good one. That was awesome, man.